Donc je vais faire les remerciements en français parce que effectivement je peux que aller dans le sens d'Hervé. En fait, être dans le comité, je sais pas, comité de rédaction, c'est bizarre, on a l'impression que c'est nous qui rédigeons. Comité éditorial des annales de l'Institut Fourier, c'est un vrai plaisir parce qu'il y a une équipe topissime du point de vue logistique qui fait qu'on a juste à se disputer éventuellement sur des questions de science. Et tout le reste, la logistique suit magnifiquement. Donc franchement, c'est un vrai plaisir d'être dans ce comité éditorial. Voilà, donc je vais essayer... Je vais passer en anglais, excusez-moi. Donc, so now I will talk about group theory. And my goal is to study some very elementary questions. At the level of statements, I hope it will be, at least I think it will be accessible. So my problem is the problem of topological generation of, say, non-Archimedean simple groups. So you can, this is the most technical word in the title. What I would like to explain is that there is some similarity between this problem of counting generators in groups in some topological context and the case of finite groups. I don't know if you, I gave this talk once and one colleague told me, well, everybody knows, you will tell us that topological simple groups or some topological simple groups are generated by two elements, two well chosen. This is well known because all finite simple groups are two generated. So okay, so I have to. This is not. This is true, of course, but I would simply like to mention that. Okay, so to mention that if you consider now your favorite matrix group, simple group, SLN, over the algebraic closure of a finite field, then it's no longer two generated and it's still simple. So the first instance of infinite simple group, taking an increasing sequence of fields, an algebraic closure of finite field, is no longer two generated. So I hope this is one argument to say that what I will explain is not completely trivial. Okay, so what is the context? The context is I will choose a local field. Okay, for instance, the field of p-adic numbers. And if you don't like it, you can consider a finite field with q elements. And you take the formal Laurent power series in T. And once you have this choice, you have a local ring, a ring of integers, say k naught, which is in the examples ZP or FQ double bracket T. Now, the formal power series with coefficients in FQ. And I will choose also what is called a uniformizer, which is defined in such a way that pi, the ideal generated by pi is the unique maximal ideal in k naught. So typically in that case, pi is p or pi is t in the examples I gave. So this is what I need for coefficients of my matrices. And now I immediately choose a simple group, a simple matrix group. Say, so simple simply means that's okay, up to a finite normal subgroup. It's indeed the group. This implies that's G of K mod finite center is indeed simple. Okay, and my favorite example for this examples for this talk will be, of course, SLN. And if you want a bit more general group, some groups which are a bit more general, I take symplectic group, take orthogonal group, provided this is a technical assumption I will make in the statement maybe, provided the signature of the quadratic form is balanced. Okay, I want signature NN or signature N plus 1, N plus 1. This has a technical name. Okay, so I start with a simple matrix group, and once I start with a matrix group, I can consider 3 groups. Three topological groups. The biggest one is the group of matrices in this simple group where I allow coefficients to be the coefficients to live in K. Then I have a smaller group which consists of the coefficients living in K naught. Okay, and then I can take something which I will call P, which will play the role of in the case of finite groups, this would be a silo P subgroup, and I will explain this a bit later. So here I have a non-compact topological group. Here, I have a compact, I should say maximal compact subgroup. And here, I take something which is slightly smaller, which will be a finite index. In this, let me call it big K. This guy will be a maximal pro P. I will explain this terminology slightly later. Pro P subgroup. Where P is the characteristic of the field, the finite field, which is defined by dividing K naught by its unique maximal ideal. Okay, so if I go back to my examples, what I'm considering in the examples, I am interested in SLN QP containing SLN ZP containing let me call it still P. It's a bit technical to define. Okay, but it's a finite. Is it okay?
What is the topology?
Sorry? The topology is the topology from the field. It's Hausdorff topology. Okay, so topology comes from K.
P is P in that case. Small p.
Yeah, small p is pi. Yeah. Okay, so this is a non-compact topological group. I have the favorite one when one considers simple Lie groups of non-Archimedean type. This is a compact subgroup because ZP itself is compact. Okay, I bound the coefficient from the absolute value bounding the coefficients in the field itself. And this is a slightly more, a bit mysterious, but it can be defined. As I said, it has finite index. And its definition is related to the fact that I will say it orally. From this group, you have a map which reduces all coefficients modulo P. Okay? reduce all matrix coefficient mod P. Then you go to SLN Z mod P. This guy is finite. And P is any preimage of a P-silo subgroup in this finite field, in this finite group. Okay? This is it. Maximal property. Okay, so this is the context. These are the objects I'm interested in, and the questions are the following. They are all related to the following general theme. Find nice generating sets for G, K, P. But for this, I mean generating in the, you see that I am in the context of topological groups. So generating here means that, more precisely, find hopefully finite subsets generating dense subgroups. Okay, I moved from finite groups to topological groups. Okay, and now the natural question is a topological one in some sense. It's a question relevant to topological groups. So if I want to be slightly more precise, I am interested in the size of minimal generating sets, minimal topologically generating subset. Then once I will say what a presentation is in this context, I will be interested in size of minimal size of presentations. Presentations means that I take into account not only the number of generators, but maybe defining relations. And I want to minimize at the same time the number of generators and the number of relations. And then something which looks like a more number theory, uniformness of the bounds. Okay, so this is what I'm interested in. I hope it's clear, and at least these questions are stated at least the statement is elementary. I hope it is the case. And the reason I can now comment on the sequence G containing K containing P in view of these questions. I'm interested in G because it's simple. So there is hope to have this, again, this two-generation phenomenon in a topological sense. I'm interested in K because it's maximal compact, but it has a quotient, as you can see here. It has a quotient which is a finite simple group, so there is still rigidity for the presentations, for the number of generators. And I'm interested also in P, because now you can forget there is no simple quotient for P. It's a prop P group. All finite quotients are P groups. So as we all know, they are nilpotent groups. They are very flexible, and it's much harder to control the size of generating sets in nilpotent groups with respect to simple ones. So each family of groups is interesting in my opinion, with respect to these questions.
Is it known that there are finite generating sets, topological generating sets?
Is it obvious? Yes, if you use analytic arguments, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so here's now kind of loosest statement I would like to illustrate today. Let G be as above, plus I have to make, unfortunately today I have to make two assumptions, two technical assumptions from group theory, split and simply connected. But you can, all these assumptions are satisfied by the four families I gave. Let G be a simple matrix group as above. Assume the characteristic of K is 0. Then there exists a pair of elements, x, y, in G of K, so in G, the biggest group, such that the group generated by this pair of matrices is dense in G. So this is in some sense, this is the statement we expect. Split means that, so it's a technical assumption from algebraic groups. It means that among the groups which become diagonalized, we like abelian subgroups in groups, okay? We take maximal abelian subgroups, and we want one which is potentially diagonalizable. You know, when we want to diagonalize matrices, we may go to some algebraic closure to have eigenvalues. Here, the assumption split, the splitness assumption says that if we want to find a maximal diagonalizable subgroup, a abelian diagonal subgroup in G, we needn't take, for some well-chosen subgroups, we needn't take an extension of K. Already over K, we have a maximal abelian group consisting of diagonalizable matrices. Sorry? Simply connected. So you're right. K is the topology on K is totally discontinuous. So it is again assumption from algebraic group theory. It means that technically it means that this famous torus group of diagonalizable matrices has a specific shape which consists in elements you can cook up thanks to a specific recipe of matrices. Typically, I would say SL2 is simply connected, but PGL2 is not simply connected. And the reason why SL2 is simply connected is that the diagonal group can be cooked up. The maximal diagonalizable subgroup of SL2 consists of the matrices lambda, lambda minus 1, and this can be produced. This is a bit strange, but it can be produced out of unipotent matrices. So the reason simply connected means that this group of elements with coefficient in K is generated by its unipotent matrices, which sounds a bit strange. This is just technical. Every group, if you don't make this assumption, there is, so to speak, a finite cover which will be simply connected. Then you can deal with this group instead of the one you started with before. And I should say, in general cases, in very general cases, to be more specific, but I won't be more specific, too much specific in the case in the cases I have to exclude. The only cases I have to exclude is when the finite group kappa k0 mod pi k0, its characteristic is not well behaved with respect to the group. Typically, I don't like characteristic 2 and 3. So we can make kind of deal. For today, we all dislike characteristic 2 and 3, and that's fine. Okay?
This finite group does not participate in the theorem.
It does. In the theorem, no, but in the proof, it does.
Yeah, and you cannot say that xy's bracket says 3.
No, I cannot say, no. I would love to say that X and Y don't have too many relations. I don't know yet. Okay, so I would like to, in order to prove this statement, to give some ideas on the proof of this statement, I have to give some ideas on compact groups. Because the main part of the proof, actually, even though I'm interested in G, actually the mainly useful group for the proof is its maximal compact subgroup. So I have, at some point, I will use a lot of result about K before going back eventually at the very end of the proof to the non-compact group G. So this is the reason why I have to explain a little bit of profinite notions. Okay, so let me give the definition. There are two equivalent conditions. We say that a group, topological group K is profinite if there is a topological definition. If it is Hausdorff, it's a, okay, the talk is in English, so I have to say Hausdorff. Hausdorff, compact, and totally disconnected. Meaning that any point is its own connected component. This is the first definition. It is topological. Equivalently, it is a projective limit of finite groups. So this is the algebraic definition. So you choose your favorite one. This one sounds better, in my opinion. Okay, profinite group is a compact group, which is also in which all points are their own connected component. Okay, so example, Galois groups, but I won't go into details for infinite extensions. This is the first one. Second one, matrix groups with coefficient in K naught. So okay, in some sense, this is cheating. Totally disconnected is repelled. This totally disconnected assumption is actually achieved by the coefficients themselves. And there is another procedure which is also cheating in some sense, but which is useful even though you do discrete group theory. You start with any discrete group. So discrete means no discrete topology, sorry. You take with any discrete finitely generated group, say. Traditionally, we call it gamma. And then you consider all finite quotients of gamma, the family of all finite quotients. Then we have a map. Say iota from gamma to this huge product, all gamma normal of finite index. You consider the map, the diagonal map, sending any element gamma to the connection of classes of gamma in all finite quotients of the group gamma. Okay, so this is not so, it sounds strange, but if you take the image of this map and you close it, you get a profinite group. Okay? So this is another way to produce profinite groups. No. Then iota of gamma closed is an artificial profinite group, but called the profinite completion of gamma. Okay, so you see, there is kind of, it's a fashionable topic by now to do some topology and to try to understand what you know about a manifold if you understand the profinite completion of the fundamental group. Not the fundamental group itself, but its profinite completion. Okay, it's kind of a trendy topic now. The question is, there might be a problem in the sense that, okay, let's start with a simple group, simple infinite group. Then there is no finite quotient. Okay, it's simple. So the profinite completion, strictly speaking, might be trivial. Okay, so I have to say it. Okay. So let's call it denoted by gamma hat. Okay. We may have gamma hat trivial. This is bothering, but the good news is that if we start with a finitely generated matrix group, this will never be the case. But if gamma is a finitely generated, so subgroup of some GLM F, where F is any field, then iota is injective. So this means, so this is due to Malchev. And we say that gamma is then called residue finite. So more concretely, it means that whenever you have a non-trivial element in such a matrix group, you have a you pick a matrix group which is generated by a finite family of matrices. Then you take any non-trivial element generated by this finite family. Then this non-trivial element survives in some finite quotient. This is concretely what it means. And also, there is a last beautiful point to mention is that, for instance, application, free groups, discrete free groups. Discrete free groups are linear. They are matrix group. Why? So let me call it free groups Fn on n letters. They are linear because the free group on two letters is linear because it's an explicit subgroup of SL2Z. It's generated by the matrix 1, 2, 0, 1, 1, 0, 2, 1. Okay, so you have an explicit F2, and you can produce any free group on any finite generating set as finite index subgroup of F2. So any free group is a subgroup of SL2Z. Okay. So in particular, these groups inject in their profinite completion, and the nice point is that this is it's a free object in the category of discrete groups. And this guy, which is obtained by a topological operation, a topological procedure, it happens that it is also the free group in a free object in the category of profinite group. It is the free profinite group on n letters. It is not 100% obvious. Okay, I perform a topological operation on Fn. I take closure in this kind of huge embedding. And it turns out that it gives me the free object in the category of profinite groups. Why do I mention this? Because I told you I'm interested in presentations. What are presentations for discrete groups? Presenting a group is just showing, presenting it as a quotient of a free group, some free group, by some subgroup normally generated by relations. Once I said this, I give sense to profinite presentations. Okay, because now I can consider profinite presentations. They are quotients of free profinite groups by closed normal subgroups. This is the closed normal subgroup generated by the words, the relations R, which is a subset of Fn hat. Okay, so this double bracket means that I don't take words in R. I take words in conjugates of elements in R. Okay, this is not the subgroup generated by R. I could put a closure if I want. I consider words in R. I consider then, as a second step, I consider all conjugates of elements in R. And then I consider the subgroup generated by all these conjugates. And then I close. So this is what a presentation is for profinite groups. And what I want to control in the profinite groups I will be interested in, I want to control the size of a presentation, namely n plus the size of R. And I hope for finiteness results for this sum n plus cardinal of R in good cases. Okay. So what is the main gadget to study generation of profinite groups? For generation of profinite groups, there is a beautiful notion, namely the Fratini subgroup. What is Fratini subgroup? If you know a little bit of algebra, this is the analog of a radical for a ring. In some sense, it's the subgroup of non-generating elements. Okay, so roughly speaking, this is a subgroup of non-generating element. I will make this more precise. This is the subgroup by which I can mod out to decide whether a subset is generating or not. So typically, if K is profinite, frat K is, by analogy with the notion in finite group, it's the intersection of maximal proper, maximal is enough, maximal proper open subgroup in K. So this O means open. I consider the collection of all open subgroups in K. I intersect them all. And this gives me a normal closed subgroup in K. Maybe it's no longer open because the family is infinite. Okay? But this is nice because there is this general fact. It is designed, so to speak, in order to have this fact. Let S be a subset in K. Then S generates, so I don't say topologically any longer, okay? S generates K if and only if, so to speak, S mod K, S mod frat generates K mod frat. And why is it nice? Because in good cases, in the case of some matrix groups, K mod frat K will be finite. Useful because in good cases, matrix groups, for instance, K mod frat K is finite. So, okay, before erasing these lines, I hope at least with this notion, it's more plausible. I'm more convincing when I say that I like this one, this intermediate group, because between the non-compact one and the maximal pro P, because this guy is a limit of P groups. So it's it's too flexible in some sense. I don't like nilpotent groups because there is no nice counting statements on P groups. I like this one, but it's non-compact. So in the meanwhile, I consider this one, and this one is nice because it has a simple quotient. Typically, if you consider SLN ZP, it goes to SLN Z mod P. And the hope is that frat, in good cases, the Fratini subgroup of this K shouldn't be too far from the kernel of this map. This is not 100% of the truth. It might be more complicated, but it's not so far from this. So, and also I will make a remark. For pro P groups, P, that is projective limits of P groups. So I'm sorry here, I cannot do better than giving the analog. You know, for profinite groups, I define that I let you choose between the topological and the algebraic definition. Unfortunately, for pro P group, there is only one definition, which is the algebraic one. Okay, a pro P group is a limit of P groups, projective limit of P groups. But what is nice is that there is an explicit, so to speak, explicit formula for the Fratini. You take the normal subgroup generated by the P's power. You take the commutator, and you close it. This is an explicit formula. This is not so, it's a bit strange, but what does it say? What does it say? It says that P mod frat P is the biggest abelian elementary P abelian subgroup. It's the biggest product of Z mod P's. It says that P mod frat P is the biggest quotient isomorphic to some Z mod PZ to some exponent n. And why is it nice? Because if you have in mind analogy with topology, H1, it is something which gives you a lower bound on generators. Think about H1 for a group. H1 is a lower bound on the number of generators for a discrete group. Okay, this is the same. And what is H1? H1 is taking H1 of some discrete group is taking its abelianization. Here, I take something which is more complicated, but which looks like suitable abelianization of my property group. This is enough for the intuition. Okay. So let me write it this way. No. So I can now go back to my initial problem, namely generation of non-compact simple groups. Okay, so the first, as I said, I recall that I have this sequence of groups. I have a matrix group. The biggest one is a simple matrix group in which the matrix coefficients live in a local field. Then I have a compact group consisting of the same matrix group, but where I restrict the matrix coefficients to be in K nodes, a local ring which is already compact for the topology of the field. And then I have P, a maximal pro P. So this guy is simple. This guy has a finite simple quotient. And this guy is completely flexible. But there is a formula for Fratini. That formula for Fratini subgroup. Okay, and Fratini is again the set of the subgroup consisting of non-generating elements. The guys by which I can mod out to decide whether a subset generates or not. Okay, so here's the first result. Again, it deals with K and not G. So this is a theorem with Ina Capdebosc. Let K be a maximal compact subgroup in G. CP. And here I make no assumption on the characteristic of the field. So you can take power series with coefficients in a finite field if you want. Then we always have we always have a control on the Fratini subgroup of K, meaning that Fratini is sufficiently large. It always contains the center of K, which is finite. It's not a big deal. But it also contains a big finite index subgroup, which I will call M2, which is the second congruent subgroup. And it is by definition, it is the kernel of reduction mod pi square. It's not so good. I would have loved to have frat K containing the first congruent subgroup, because dividing by pi would give me a quotient which would be simple. Okay, if you have in mind this example, SLN-ZP. It's erased, okay. Okay, so again, M2, or Mi in general, it is the kernel of the map which goes from G of K naught to G of K naught mod pi to the I. This is nice because it is always finite. Okay. I would have loved to be able to tell you that it contains M1 because it would have been much less complicated. Okay, modding out by pi says that the quotient of K by M1 is SLN kappa, the finite field kappa. So it would be nice because SLN kappa is a simple group. So I can use all this business of 2 generations for finite simple groups. Okay, life is not as nice as we hope. We have to take in general the second congruent subgroup. So the theorem says that we have to work with J of K naught mod M square. But this guy goes to J of K naught mod M1. So this guy is nice because it is J of kappa. It is finite and simple. Okay, so we have a surjective map. My problem is that I have a quotient. I have a kernel, sorry. M1 mod M2. But what is not so bad is that this guy is the Lie algebra of the group G over the finite field kappa. If you know a little bit of algebraic geometry, what do I do? This is what? This is J of K naught mod M1. In some sense, I make pi nilpotent over the 2. So what I'm computing is the tangent space thanks to Cartier dual numbers. Technically, this is what it means. Because I force pi to be nilpotent by modding out by n. So this group is, in some sense, it is the tangent bundle of G over kappa, more or less. Okay, so I don't want to go into further details, but this theorem says that to decide whether a subset is generating in kappa, in the profinite group, in the compact group kappa, the compact totally disconnected group kappa, I have to decide whether this subset is generating in the finite quotient k mod m square, which is more or less explicit. And the reason why I have to exclude some, some characteristic is the fact that the action of this quotient on this Lie algebra, I will use it to decide whether to find some nice generating subset, but we are in positive characteristics since kappa is finite, and sometimes a joint representation, this is the joint representation, is not irreducible in characteristic 2 or 3. This is the only place where this is one place where I have to exclude some characteristic for kappa. Okay, so I should say that this, I won't make this theorem more precise, but this is also with INA. Okay. And okay, I wanted to so for G, I will simply give an ingredient for generation of G. The idea is to use the fact that K in G, so G of K naught inside G of K, is actually not only a maximal compact subgroup, but it's a maximal proper subgroup. It's a maximal proper subgroup of G. So it's completely stupid. I know, I understand much better now K and problems of generation for K. The idea now is to find an element, since this guy is maximal proper, if I start with an element outside of K, such that a suitable power goes to K, typically take 1 over P, 1, 0. This is an element which does not live in SL2 ZP. Okay, I take it to the P's power. It goes to 1, 1, 0, 1. So now it's in SLN ZP. Mod P, it's still non-trivial, and it's part of a generating pair by standard arguments on SL2 Z mod PZ. So this is the idea. I start with an element which is not in K. I take some suitable power. It goes to K, but not too deep, because if it were too deep, it would be killed by congruent subgroup. So I have to balance my power. I have to choose suitably my element outside of K. I take it to some power. It goes to K, but not too deep, with respect to congruencies. And then, maybe considering, this is too simple, but considering this tangent bundle, I managed to find a second element generating this quotient. Okay, so I think I don't have time to formulate some uniformness result, but with, if we are only interested, if we go back to K here, we have a result with Ina Capdebosc again and Lubotsky, saying that if we start with, again, the same kind of group, G, there is a constant, there is a universal constant C, such that whatever G, provided it has rank at least 2, whatever Q the size of the finite field, the maximal compact subgroup Kg of FQ double bracket T has a profinite presentation such that the number of generators plus the number of relations is uniformly bounded by the constant C, which does not depend on G, does not depend on the size of the residue field. So this is kind of, looks like number theory, and okay, I will stop here. Thank you.